Welcome to Reality NSFW. I am your host, Alex Trias. I'm here with Lauren Pratt, and we are covering the challenge Spies, Lies, and Allies, episode 18, the night of eliminations, first part of the final. It's a good time, folks. This is what everyone waits for the challenge. Lauren, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Excited to talk about this episode. We made it. We are here. Yes, we got a little bit of fieriness in the elimination zone, and then we get right into the final, which I'm just excited to see how this goes because finals for me are so fun to watch because then you really see how great these competitors are. And anyone that makes a final, they did something right to be able to be there.
Absolutely. And Lauren, I'm trying to recall now. When did this season start?
Okay, this season started in August, well before Survivor started, and Survivor is going to finish the same time the challenge season is going to finish, which amazes me.
It's been a trip, everyone. This has been a marathon. We've had our lulls in this season. We've had some excitement. This was a good episode. Let's jump right into it. So we know that two people are leaving, one woman, one guy. We don't know how yet, but TJ says everyone cells are no more, individual game. Everyone line up, and we're going to be doing a women's elimination first. And because Emmanuel, you won the elimination, you get to vote first. And we sort of see a lot of people start throwing Amanda's name. Like a lot of people are using it as excuse of they see Amanda as the weakest. Even though I would just say if she was in this final, I don't think she would have been doing that bad. But the more important thing we see there is we see Nelson stay in Amanda's corner because, Amanda and Nelson have this thing of loyalty to their friends. Like they really don't want to do something that would hurt someone that they care about. So Nelson votes for Tori with Amanda to show respect. Like it really didn't mean anything, and Tori shouldn't have taken the offense that she did take out of it. But we only see Amanda get called down. She's the compromised agent. What are your thoughts on her being picked?
So I kind of have two different reasonings on why I think this essentially happened with Amanda. I think people sent Amanda in because they thought if they got called down that they could probably beat Amanda. But on the other side of it, I was even thinking this as well. I think some people needed to consider potentially maybe not voting for Amanda and letting Amanda, if they think she is quote unquote weak, going to the final because they think that she's someone that they can beat. But I think at the end of the day, whoever would have went down would have probably called Amanda regardless. So I think Amanda was going in with whatever was going to happen in this entire situation. What I did like, though, is that they did not know what the elimination was.
I agree. Part of me does have questions, which you're going to have, of like, well, did they put these specific eliminations in, decide who was going to do what based off of just so happens who was the person called down? Like you have that feeling all the time because we see Amanda who would be good at puzzles. She calls out Tori because of the remaining people. She's chill with Casey. She's chill with Nany. And she's good with Emmy. She has had a issue with Tori, and Tori has had an issue with her. So it made sense in her logic, based off the game that she plays, she picks Tori. Even though you have Nelson going, pick the rookie, be smart, don't be vindictive. Well, I'm like, Nelson, take your own advice first off. Second, Emmy would also like mollywop her in this challenge.
Mm-hmm.
Like if it was this type of physical elimination, her best shot was like Nany.
Yep.
And that's it.
I agree with that. I think part of me even says this as well. She could have picked Nany, ran the chances with that because Nany's not the best at puzzles either. We clearly saw it in this final. So if she was going the puzzle route and saying, I'm picking Tori because I don't think Tori's good at puzzles, you also could have selected Nany, which gives you a chance. If it is a headbanger, you're basically the same size. So you have an opportunity to beat her. And I think Amanda has a little bit more fight than Nany does in a physical elimination. So I think it could have maybe been a different outcome, but we don't know. But regardless, we agree for sure that Amanda was probably going in this elimination no matter what.
And And once she's the one named, everyone knows it's Tori getting called because Amanda is someone who will die in the game, metaphorically die for her friends. We
Mhm.
saw it in Invasion of the Champions when essentially she had to put her game on the line so that Ashley could move forward. And then she doesn't get to the final, Ashley wins it. Um, like that's how loyal Amanda is. Like,
Mhm.
so she's friends with Nani outside of this game. So she's not going to pick them, even though she understands other people can separate the friendship. She personally can't. She knows that's her weakness, but you know, it's her. I like that she owns it. But like we said, they get a physical elimination uh called drone drop, which essentially is just it's like it's like the game you would play at like camp with the greased watermelon. You put the greased watermelon at the middle of the field and you would like call a number and those people on opposite sides would have to run, chase each other down, wrestle, grab that watermelon, bring it back to your side for the win. That's essentially what drone drop was. Because I didn't care about it's laser direct. I'm like, when did that matter? It was literally just let's drop the ball, you run, put it in your barrel. That's what it is, everyone. And we saw Amanda very scrappy. Like everyone underestimates how scrappy she is. Will she win? Probably not, but she gives a fight. It doesn't matter what the perceived size or strength is. She's going to fight as much as she can. But we see almost the equivalent of the bananas backpack in this first round.
Not quite as iconic,
Not
but
not as iconic.
not it will never nothing really will ever top that in my opinion right now. But I will say, you know, size matters in these headbangers. It really does. If you're bigger and stronger than your opponent, there's a good chance that you're going to win. Not all the time, because we see it with situations such as Derek.
Yeah.
He's very, very scrappy. So scrappy people can sometimes win. Scrappy and quick. You have to be quick as well. But in this situation, Tori's just a little bit bigger, a little bit stronger than Amanda, and just, lifts her up, takes her over to that ball, and just slams it in there. And I mean, Tori did what Tori had to do to get herself the win. So you can't blame Amanda. Yeah. She called Tori down, gave it her best go, and she's going out. To me, Amanda gets a bad rap sometimes. I think some people give her a hard time for no reason, though, because as you've stated earlier, she's super loyal to her people and she has her people's back. She only goes against the people that are also going after her. She doesn't make vendettas with people just out of the blue.
She doesn't rock. If she doesn't rock with you, she's against you. It's as simple as that. But she gets a very nice send off in this, which I enjoyed. Like we all joke, and it's her gimmick that she's the devil. She's the most evil person that can play the challenge, but she has a heart of gold. Like, and you see that through her friendships, through her job. Like she's a nurse. She was on the front lines at the beginning of this pandemic. Like she has a son as a single mother right now. Like she has a lot of good qualities about her, and I like that TJ sort of gave her a proper send off of like, you see that devil's stick you do is bullshit. You're a very nice person. We look forward to having you back again, and like I'm sure you will be one of the best moms like out there. And she gets that send off, so I'm happy for her. She didn't get the win, but I'm just happy that we had her on our screens again.
Yeah, because it's been a while since she's been back. And I think even though she didn't make it the final, she can still walk away from the season knowing that she gave it her all and she did a great job. And she came out really likable. I don't think viewers, I mean, especially not us, can't have a bad word to say about her. She was great.
Absolutely. Whether or not the stuff that you're hearing about the new season coming out is a different story, but and people trying to get some credit off her name, but hey, they always come to Amanda if they want to try to get on that season. I'm just saying, people. But now it's time for the men, and Tori votes for Nelson being vindictive. Like, well, I'm not going to vote for anyone else. You're the one who I want to go in because you said my name. Who cares? We sort of see the chamber locked in on Emmanuel. Some people do struggle with picking Emmanuel because they've worked with him for so long, but ultimately they stay true to the longer relationships. Um, so Emmy votes for Nelson, obviously, because she has her relationship with Emmanuel outside the game as well. Emmanuel's the one who goes in, and he decides after Tori keeps trying to say, don't pick Devin, don't pick Devin, don't pick Devin. He picks Devin. And his reasoning is, Devin said my name. All I want to say is, wasn't it just a few weeks ago where Kyle said like Emmanuel was an option, but went with Josh, and Emmanuel was like, "Why didn't you pick me? You're just a chicken." You're like, I think Emmanuel was being a bit of a fucking chicken himself because he thought, I'm gonna pick who I think is the weakest. You know?
Well, and also consider this as well. Yes, Devin said his name, but even before that would have happened, if say Emmanuel would have voted first, he would have probably said Devin's name too. So
Yeah.
you can't. You're contradicting yourself.
Every guy said Emmanuel's name.
Yeah.
Nelson said it. CT said it. Kyle said it. Devin said it. So that's not an excuse saying, "Oh, Devin said my name." You know, so like you can go fuck off, Emmanuel.
I think what happened was obviously the girls went first. So he's probably assuming, okay, it's going to be a physical contact to contact elimination again. Because you're just assuming that. You never know.
Yeah.
And so in that situation, because you already saw Kyle earlier in the season like kick ass. So you don't want to go against Kyle. No one wants to go against CT. Nelson is scrappy as hell. So yes, if you're thinking it's going to be a headbanger, your best option probably is to pick Devin.
Yeah. Part of me would have liked to see him actually grow some balls and been like, well, we all keep saying that we can't win if CT's there. So CT, come down here and see what happens. He would still get kicked either way, whether it was that elimination there or the puzzle, which we end up seeing, the triple threat, which is 3 mind-bending puzzles. CT would have easily crushed that puzzle as well, or all 3, a lot quicker than either of them. But we see him ultimately pick Devin. Tori's so frustrated now because she's gonna lose someone that she cares about no matter what. I'm like, okay, Tori, I've been on your train for this whole second half of the season. Stop making me not want to be on it right now. She very much makes me tempt to get off throughout this elimination.
Yeah, the elimination round, not her best look because I get confused as a viewer as well because she's saying, I want both of them to win. Only one of them can win. So, yes, she's rooting for both of them, but she, in my opinion, the way she was helping Emmanuel, she wanted him to win because she wasn't doing anything for Devin, which I appreciate Devin in this situation saying, don't help me. I got this. Like, he wanted to win this for himself. And I commend him for that so much.
But it's also like, so let's get into it. So the first puzzle is one of those puzzles where you have to have the 6 colors all be only one across each row and each column. They can't overlap. They have to be individual, but they're stuck in squares of 4. So Devin's having a little bit of a hard time with it. Emmanuel actually finishes it first and gets to that second puzzle. And while Devin's still trying to figure out and finish up that first puzzle is when Tori's already trying to help Emmanuel with the math problem. And Devin just keeps saying, stop helping. I'd like this. Stop helping him. Don't help me. Like, don't help. But she keeps she's trying to whisper it, mime it. And Nelson, I'm happy Nelson called her out. It's like, hey, stop helping. Stop cheating. Stop trying to make him you're really good friends with Devin. Like, why are you trying to fuck over your friend? And she's trying to say, oh, I'm trying to help everyone. Emmanuel, 5. I'm like, dude, stop it. But eventually Devin catches up. And the next one is you have numbers 1 through 9. You have to make sure every column, row, and diagonal fits. Everyone has done this before. And just for people who don't remember, the key to this, as they said in the show, is the goal is to always make everything 15. That's the number. That's sweet spot. So you put a 5 in the middle, and then you just figure out the 2 numbers, and you just rotate. It doesn't really matter where exactly they are, because at the end of the day, you have that 5 right in the middle to complete all of them to get to 15. And Devin does it very quick, according to the episode. Very quick. We don't know what the time was, but he gets to the third one. Emmanuel finally gets to the third one, and you have to complete a diamond puzzle where at the end, once you have it all configured, all the diamonds that are in fully intact have to be the same color. Perfect. They're each struggling a little bit. but ultimately Devin sees his mistakes before Emmanuel sees his. Devin wins, sends Emmanuel home. And you know what? Like I'm giving Emmanuel shit, but I do commend him for doing 2 eliminations in one night. Uh, you're we don't know how far removed from that first elimination they are to give him time to rest and everything, but you would have to think he's still like a little like at least physically drained, which can affect you mentally. But we see Emmanuel ultimately go home. And what are your thoughts on it, Lauren?
So, I mean, his elimination against Logan, exhausting. First off, you get on this big high that you just won, you're thinking that you're safe, and then all of a sudden, TJ drops that bomb that two more people are going home. So, I think right then and there, Emmanuel knew, all right, I'm probably going in if it's a vote. So then you have to mentally prepare yourself to then have to go in, and puzzles, that's all mental. So if you're not able to get your mind in that state, then it's really difficult to get through this. I will say, I don't think he would have gotten through the second puzzle if it weren't for Tori. He looked so stuck on that. So the fact that he was even at the third puzzle and had an opportunity to then win and go to a final is mind-boggling to me, because he still should be stuck on that second puzzle today.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. This was Devin's lose. I think he properly assessed it himself. Like I think I got in my own head at the beginning, was psyching myself out, and that's why I was struggling, because we've seen Devin do puzzles and he's usually very much more efficient. And even we see at the first checkpoint of the final, he like is a little slow at the gun or at the trigger with completing that puzzle when really it should have been a breeze for him. Um, Especially when you have someone who doesn't toss their puzzle after completing it. But
We'll get there.
yeah, so we have our final 4 men and women, and they have earned their ticket to run TJ's final. Uh, Big sense of euphoria for all of them. Emmy, of course, is crying, doing it for her mother, doing it for her grandma, yada yada yada.
Oh, you forgot Uncle CT as well. Even though she's competing against Uncle CT, she didn't
She
mention
didn't say
his
Uncle
name.
CT.
She didn't say it, but I think in her head she was thinking it.
Well, she obviously joins them at the end anyway. So, yeah. So, what do you think of this final 8? Like, is it truly the best of the best that have ever competed?
So you want me to actually legitimately give you my thoughts on this?
Yeah, give me your thoughts on this final 8.
Based on this season, I just think what did Nani do to get here?
Social game. She never had a vote cast against her.
Right, but I'm saying, and we'll get into it with the final. She, to me, in my opinion, isn't a contender to win this thing. No. Just based on what we're seeing. And so I love her and Casey's dynamic. I think it's great. But I do think you benefit so much if you have friends in the house, because then you're able to play that political game, that social game, being good with each other. And so I will say, she is very good at that, and she's likable. So that is one of the reasons why she's definitely still there. But I do enjoy sometimes where people have to go into elimination and prove themselves. Casey did the same thing. Casey didn't have to go in either. I just want to see someone go into one elimination at least and not just be able to coast all the way to the end. Same thing with CT. CT is able to just get there with no one mentioning him at all. And I think huge mistake on so many different people's part, because CT, just based on what we're seeing, is crushing the final so far.
Yeah, and like we see in the preview, it looks like potentially the losing cell has to eat their own, and like, another guy and girl will get sent home. So there is an interesting dynamic there at the end of like, what if Casey and Nani have to compete against each other, and like Casey is the reason why Nani doesn't get her first win, you know, or vice versa. You have Kyle now who's trying to get his name in the record books, become a dad with some money. You have Nelson who wants to do it for his mom, get a salon opened up for her, but also for himself. He idolized this show forever, and he hasn't won yet, so he wants to have one. There's a lot of people, like, even whether or not we want to say like they've earned it or not earned it, there's a lot of background behind it of like motivation that's going to push them in these challenges to come. But yeah, so we see that they have their celebrations. Devin's wary of Tori, obviously, but a lot of the guys are in the right minds of we can be angry, but we need to put it away because we don't know what this final is going to bring. Let's not be on bad terms with people, but like keep it noted.
Right. And I also want to say this too. If you made it to the final, you absolutely did something right. So I'm not discrediting anyone on in their game and on the season in particular. I'm just saying who I thought was maybe one of the weaker people that ended up getting there, but you have to do something in order to get there. You can't just coast. You have to at least have a political and social game so you're not ever voted in. So Nany, in my opinion, yes, great competitor. Do I think she's a top 4 girl on the season? No. I think other girls, had to go in more, had to prove themselves more, and then just ended up getting knocked out by somebody else. That's just my little tidbit there. Everyone absolutely earned their position in the final, just you got there a different way than somebody else.
Absolutely. But with that concludes the elimination side of this episode. We're going to be right back after an ad break, but when we come back, we are going to be talking the beginning of TJ's final. We are here, folks. We're right here, and just wait a couple more minutes while you hear some words from our sponsors.
Lucy Nicotine is a company founded by Caltech scientists and former smokers looking for a better and cleaner nicotine alternative. Finally, tobacco alternatives that don't suck.
Researched and developed for 3 years to be made for people, not patients. Lucy has created a nicotine gum with 4 milligrams of nicotine that comes in 3 flavors: wintergreen, cinnamon, and pomegranate. Lucy also has a lozenge with 4 milligrams of nicotine in cherry ice flavor. Each and every flavor actually tastes great, and it's convenient and discreet. Products can be enjoyed anywhere, on flights, at work, on the go, or even in the gym.
I am so happy that Lucy is sponsoring us. Ever since they came on board, I have gotten no less than 5 of my friends transitioned over to Lucy and put their cigarettes down. They like the gum. I'm used to seeing the packages all around. This stuff is great, and it's really helping people make much healthier choices. So get on board and join the Lucy movement.
Hey, it's 2021. Get rid of your cigarettes, unplug your vape, throw out your dip, and get some Lucy nicotine gum or lozenges. This is the real deal. A subscription to Lucy comes directly to your door each month. It's so simple that you don't even have to leave your house because Lucy has delivery down.
Reality NSFW listeners, go to lucy.co and use promo code SURVIVOR to get 20% off all products, including gum or lozenges. That's lucy.co and use promo code SURVIVOR at checkout. Also, I have to give this disclaimer. Warning, this product contains nicotine derived from tobacco. Nicotine is an addictive chemical. That's lucy.co, and be sure to use that promo code SURVIVOR.
This episode of Reality NSFW is sponsored by Blue Chew. Say it with us, Blue Chew. Blue Chew is making waves and bringing more confidence to the bedroom by offering chewable tablets that can help men get stronger and longer lasting erections. That's right, we're giving away super hard dicks.
Blue Chew is a unique online service that delivers the same active ingredients as Viagra and Cialis, but in chewable form and at a fraction of the cost. Blue Chew's tablets help men achieve harder, stronger erections to combat all forms of ED.
Blue Chew is an online prescription service, so no visits to the doctor offices, no awkward conversations, and no waiting in line at the pharmacy. And it ships right to your door in a discreet package. The process is simple. Sign up at BlueChew.com, consult with one of their licensed medical providers, and once you're approved, you'll receive your prescription within days. And the best part, it's all done online.
Blue Chew's licensed medical providers work with you to find the right ingredient and strength for your prescription. Don't like swallowing pills? No problem here. Blue Chew's sildenafil and tadalafil tablets are chewable. Blue Chew's tablets are made in the USA and they prepare and ship direct, so it's cheaper than a pharmacy.
Hey, if you're looking to give that immunity idol to someone, or you don't want to be voted out of a crater, don't worry, Blue Chew's got you covered. So if you could benefit from extra confidence when it's time to perform, visit BlueChew.com for more details and important safety information.
And we've got a special deal for our listeners. Try Blue Chew free when you use promo code SURVIVOR at checkout. Just pay $5 shipping. That's Blue Chew, BLUECHEW.com, promo code SURVIVOR to receive your first month free. And we thank Blue Chew for sponsoring the podcast.
And we are back, and it's now time for everyone to leave headquarters for the final time and start TJ's final. Lauren, we've been waiting for this.
I've been waiting like 3 months for this.
About 17 and a half episodes, 3+ months in the making. We're finally here. We're at the final. And TJ, once again, has to remind us that this final, you have to be smart, you have to be fast, and you have to be ready to adapt at all times, because this isn't like a final that you have seen.
I'm curious to know, do you think people would rather run finals in a little bit colder of a temperature or a little bit hotter of a temperature?
There's pros and cons of both. We're so familiar to the end game of them in cold weather because you would be like hiking up a mountaintop or a steep mountaintop, so it would have snow. I would probably say cold just because you would need more water when it's hot, and you have more chances of heat stroke rather than if you were doing it in the cold.
I think cold as well, because you are going to warm up if you're constantly moving, constantly running, and the heat, that can just make it so much more brutal on your body. But I'm always curious to know what people prefer, because I know some people can't stand the cold, but at the same time, I think it's just beneficial for them to be running in colder temperatures for a final.
Yeah, I agree, but it's now time. TJ's going to explain what the first portion is. So the first portion is there's a helicopter, but before you can get on the helicopter, you have to race up this little trail, complete the first checkpoint, which is a puzzle. Once that puzzle is complete, you come back down. Based off when you guys all come down, you go in pairs of 2 on each helicopter, and you jump off in order. But you have to take a leap of faith. Kyle's thrilled about that. You have to take a leap of faith into the lake. You then swim till you see the flags. You then from the flags, you go to the land and you run to the next checkpoint, and then you would find out as things go on. I like this as a good start. I love having an equalizer right out the gate. It just is another reminder for people. It's not just about muscle. You need to have brains. Like, you need to understand how to do puzzles in order to succeed in the challenge.
So far, the final is very balanced for me, and I agree with you. They're having a little bit of the physicality there, and then you have the mental capacity that it's going to take on people throughout the final thus far. So what I will say with this is Nelson was feeling himself a little bit, at the beginning of this final, and I just love CT. Like, it's early, buddy. Like, this is just the first 10, 15 minutes. So Nelson was really hyped up about it.
It's been a minute since he's been in a final. I think he's just amped up and ready to go. So I just think that's Nelson's attitude as well. It's not, I don't even think it's him trying to showboat. It's just him doing it for himself, But so we started, and we see all of them get to the puzzle. The puzzle is the map, like the globe puzzle that was from the very early elimination that Emmy, I believe it was Emmy and
was it Ed?
Yeah, Emmy and Ed won against early people.
People that left 3 months ago. Like, we can't remember them.
Tracy. It was Tracy and Kels.
If you
I remember stuff.
If you would tell Jonny that there was a Tracy on this season, he would say, who?
No, he'd tell us a story about a Tracy that you met 15 years ago.
He would talk about Tracy from Survivor Micronesia.
Oh, God. Yeah. So, but the difference is you have to do it, and you have to add all the flags that everyone from the challenge represented, which was like the little tiny twist. Like, if you don't know where countries are, you're going to struggle with that part. So CT just like blows through it, finishes it, and he's just so amped and ready to just keep going and make his lead bigger that he forgets to tear down his puzzle. Everything's still up there.
Yeah, not the best thing for CT, but honestly, it didn't matter. What I found funny from it was Nany saying, "Oh, I'm going to utilize this to cheat." well, you must be a really bad cheater and didn't really like follow through with that in school because you came in last and you were still cheating.
Yeah, that's the I also wrote that down. I was like, she says I'm gonna be proactive, I'm gonna cheat, uh, but still finds herself last. So maybe it was just that everyone was still just going so fast on their own. Who knows? But essentially, we see an order of CT and Tori finish 1 and 2, and then Nelson comes in third. I wouldn't have guessed that.
Yeah,
Nelson knows that we wouldn't have guessed that.
right. He said that we doubted him, but then
I
clicked
did.
to the next puzzle.
Well, that one's harder. I will say that. Like, I expect people to be able to make a map of the world. You know,
You would, but then again,
you're right. It is the challenge.
it is the challenge. We have seen people that cannot do puzzles at all. And I talk about this. I am the worst at puzzles, so I haven't realized that. But if I'm going on a show, I would at least practice before going back and returning and try a couple different puzzles here and there.
Yeah, man. If Ricard from Survivor, if he has good cardio, he should come on the challenge. He's great at puzzles. He'd be right up there with CT.
I honestly think Ricard would be someone that would want to do it because Ricard is such a competitor.
I just think he would be good TV, honestly.
Oh yeah.
Like MTV wouldn't be hiding or like trying to under edit him the way that Survivor's under editing him.
Well, if we're talking Survivor players from this season in particular who I could see going on the challenge, I would also add Danny to that list.
If he wants to, like it really just depends on his time, like the time of his life and what he's looking for. Like he was actually a watcher of Survivor, so he wanted to play the game. We don't know what his takes are on the challenge. He would be interesting. I could see a Xander in there, like a Xander or Liana, like in there, just because it's like younger as well, and they can't just keep pulling people that are in their mid-30s.
That's true. But I think if they get the call, they'll highly consider it because it's another platform to be able to showcase your abilities. And if you're truly a competitor and all you really want to do is compete, the challenge is the best place to do so. Yes, there's strategy involved in everything such as that, but at least you have an opportunity to compete for your spot in the game if you get put into an elimination. Whereas Survivor, you never know when you're going to get sent home. You could be blindsided, and then, that's it. Torch is snuffed.
Yep, it just puts Xander and Lauren O'Connell on there, and I'm good.
There you go.
Yeah, they just need to break up. They can be on the next X's season. But okay, so back to here. Like Nelson finishes third. We get Devin in fourth. Then we get Casey and Kyle in fifth and sixth, and then Emmy finally gets seventh once she finds her U.S. flag, which was on the ground.
That was funny.
That was funny. Emmy continues to provide some humor. Not intentional, but it's humor nonetheless. And Nani comes in last. So now we're on the helicopter spot. I sort of wish they were higher up.
Well, I will say, Emmy, yes, looked terrified on the ride over, but she didn't make a huge deal of it. She did just end up jumping. Kyle, on the other hand, was like, lower.
I think he was playing it up for this. Like he knows it wasn't that high up. It wasn't like the crane, like the challenge where he didn't do the leap and he just stayed on the platform.
Could you imagine if they were all in the season where they had to go skydiving to start the final? I think some people on this season would have a struggle jumping out of that plane.
Well, Kyle would be good with that. Like he said that he would be good jumping out of a plane. He doesn't like jumping into water. That's his issue.
Do you think Emmy jumps out of the plane?
I think she freaks out for like about 30 minutes.
I think all of a sudden the person that's like with you, supporting you with the parachute just pushes you out eventually.
Yeah, like she would have to just explicitly say, like we saw on an older season, like they like said like, no, I'm not jumping. Like no, you're keeping me on this plane. Then they wouldn't do it. But yeah, so they all jump down. They get their tie. Like there's a bunch of flags as like CT and Tori are get approaching on their little like mini jet ski. I forget what those were called. But there's a little tile connected to it. But you need that tile for the next checkpoint. So they all get in, they run up this jagged mountain that is a little hard to run on because it's a lot of loose rock. You're also going uphill consistently. Like, I did a hike in the summer in Seattle, in the Olympias, or the Olympics, and it was brutal. Like, I had to stop so many times. I felt like Devin, where Devin was like running, like, okay, I need a break. I need a moment to catch my breath, and then I'll go and kill myself again. The issue is every time you stop, you don't go as far because you're just continuing to go uphill, and you're just going to get more tired in a less amount of distance. But mainly we see CT and Nelson just keep chugging along. They're the first two up at the third checkpoint, which is the circuit puzzle that from the challenge earlier in the season. So you had to recreate that one, pull the lever, and you would be able to move on to the next step. And it was a lot more trickier for people this time around. Even CT, who everyone would just think would complete it instantly.
Now, do you think Casey had a little bit of PTSD, major PTSD,
running up
with those rocks? Because that would have been running through my mind. Because yes, you want to go quick, you want to go fast, but at the same time, you want to make sure your footing is good. Because any little slip up here and there, you can easily injure a knee, you can easily injure an ankle. And so I will say, yes, the way some of these people were sprinting, great sprints, but at the end of the day, you don't need to like push that hard. You still have a ton of final to go.
Right. There's a lot of final left that, like, we're probably gonna have another 90 minutes. Hot take, even though I liked this episode, also could have been an hour.
Not an email, just an hour.
No, it could have been an hour episode.
Okay. There you go.
But it is what it is. But we get to this, everyone actually gets up to start doing the circuit puzzle before anyone finishes, and we have Devin who's like, hey, I know this running's going to be the struggle for me, but it's the checkpoints where I'm going to gain advantage. And this puzzle in particular, he was able to do very fast, and he's the first person to complete that puzzle. Runs, and he's just like, let them all be the idiots that I know that they can be, and let me just win. But a little farther away from it is a platform, and you're now going back into cells. What do you think about the cells coming back?
I'm fine with it because I know it's not going to last through the duration of this final. They're obviously going to split up again because we know that. I think it just provides something new and fresh because they're mixing it up. I am all about finals where it's not just clear cut what's going to happen. I think run a little bit alone, run a little bit in a duo, run a little bit in a cell. I'm totally fine with that. But at the end of the day, what I do like to see is it coming down to you as an individual, because you get there for a reason, and a lot of that reasoning is due to what you're able to bring to the table. So I think everyone should have an opportunity to showcase what they can do themselves, and I'm totally fine with it.
But there you go. I'm fine with it too, because I think ultimately it's going to be, they start as individuals, go into these cells. After the elimination that purges one more guy and girl, I think it'll end in pairs of guy and girl pairs. So there'll be 3 guys, 3 girls left. So 1 male winner, 1 female winner to split the money at the end. That's what I believe it'll be. So Devin picks his spot. CT finishes second, and he comes down, and he has a choice to make. He could join Devin on his cell or start his own and just have it be like, okay, well, either Kyle or Nelson will be paired up with me. And this is where I feel like friendships came in. Like, CT and Devin had a good connection, and CT knows, well, Devin's also really good at these checkpoints. Makes sense. But in my mind, I just kept questioning CT's decision here because he ultimately picks to join Devin's cell. CT is someone whose whole point is stay ahead and be good at the checkpoints. And unfortunately, Devin is really good at the puzzle checkpoints. He's not the best runner of the remaining 8 people. So that could be weighing CT down.
So the way I take this, and I mostly agree with you for sure, is CT and Devin, to me, both brainiacs, really good at puzzles and everything. So that's what Devin's going to provide you. If you yourself already have that, you don't need that as an asset because you already can do it yourself. So I think, yes, what you're saying, him going to the other cell and gambling on someone such as Nelson and or Kyle, who's going to have a little bit more endurance than Devin, is more beneficial to CT's game. Now, what I will say is this. I think Devin, in terms of endurance, holds his own with Kyle.
Yeah.
Nelson is the bigger factor here with better endurance. So that's also playing a little bit of a gamble there because in my eyes, Kyle and Devin are a little bit of the same. So you're only really picking that other cell if you're hoping that Nelson finishes that puzzle first and Nelson's in your cell.
Yeah, I can see what you're saying there. But like the other thing that I want people to just remember is that a lot of people discount Kyle. Kyle has almost won multiple finals.
Mhm.
Like he's come in second place multiple times on the men's side. So there's also the you could take the gamble of Kyle being your partner, but also being like, he's been damn close. Hey,
Yeah,
let's both get the win. Like
it's hard.
it's hard. It's a hard decision, but ultimately he picks Devin. He thinks it's the safer choice, and CT we've seen this season is risk averse and wants to take the easiest path. Which here's to you for wanting to do that. When you're a veteran who has multiple wins, you can take the easy path when it's given to you. Tori finishes at third, doesn't disrupt her puzzle after. So she also joins Devin and CT because they're her friends. Emmy, I think, saw that Tori's puzzle wasn't disrupted and completed hers fourth. And she also joins that cell because Uncle CT is there.
Emmy
So
must have been a good cheater in school then because she was able to copy quite well.
I don't know. Like I'm just thinking that's what happened because they showed a puzzle there and Emmy going very
I would
briefly.
too. I don't blame.
Oh no, there's
Yeah.
no such thing as cheating on the challenge if they let you do it. But ultimately we see the other people cascade in. So Kyle, Nelson, Nani, and Casey actually comes in last because her one weakness is puzzles. So Nelson's sort of bogged down about this because he's like, all four of us didn't do well at this checkpoint. If we're running in a cell, we're going to have more of these checkpoints. And if we're not good at them, we're going to continue to be behind. And I would rather just be going it on my own then, if that's the case.
Now, with Nelson, I actually do think he is someone that benefits from going on his own for sure.
I agree.
We've seen it. Yeah, we saw it on this season. He doesn't do as well in the team format, but he has so many great abilities that make him a good challenge competitor because he might not be the best at puzzles, but he's going to complete them in a range that is going to be relatively good. He has great endurance, and he is someone that isn't the weakest at swimming or anything like that. So he has so many things that he is able to do. So the team format, not the best for him, but the team format is good for a couple people for sure.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So we see the purple and orange cells now created. And TJ comes in and he's like, you guys are going to keep running at this until I tell you differently. So we know at some point he's going to tell them differently, but he prefaces at the end of the episode, you don't want to be the cell that's in last place by the end of today. So already everyone's thinking purge. Like, is it the whole cells going? Is it just we fight amongst ourselves? Who knows? And we'll find out next week. Ultimately, the assumption is they will have to eat their own, and the girls and guys will respectively compete against each other of the losing cell. So my assumption is that Orange Cell will be the one who has to eat themselves. Just because we're going to see like Devin struggling to run, and that will be like a point. But at the end of the day, I think they're going to win those checkpoints. So who do you think survives this mini or the final purge?
Well, I do want to say in the preview, they are trying to throw us off and make us think that the orange cell is going to come out on top. Yes, it looks like the orange cell does pass the purple cell at one point, but I'm not buying that. Absolutely not. I think purple's going to take it. They should. They're the best cell on paper. So if they don't win this, I'm going to be stunned. Now, I will say The purge portion. In terms of the girls, it would be Casey versus Nany. I think Casey pretty much takes it unless it's a puzzle. But again, still Casey's in the running because Nany didn't do great at the puzzles either today. So theirs is more of leaning towards Casey for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And if Nany's able to pull something out, good for her. Great, but I think it's Casey. In terms of the guys, it really is going to depend what it is, because if it is a headbanger thing, I honestly think Kyle takes it, because you don't want to go against him in a headbanger. You've seen it on many seasons prior to this one, including this one, how good he is with those. If it's a puzzle between both of them, hit or miss, but I am going to pick Nelson as surviving.
Okay. Yeah, like honestly, the Kyle Nelson one would be the one I'm more excited to see of the two guy pairings, just because Kyle's an animal in eliminations, but also Nelson is an animal too. Like he doesn't have as great of a record as Kyle, but Nelson has so much heart and tenacity and skills that Kyle doesn't have, and Kyle likewise, because of his build or like just his body length, also has advantages, especially if it's like a close like a headbanger that's like the cross challenge, you know. So it'll be interesting to see there. I think I would put Casey over Nany at this point, just because also of two people who have had very small edits, Nany's edit has a lot smaller than Casey's as somehow.
Oh, she's barely gotten many confessionals throughout this entire season. Now let's play another game though.
Okay.
If for some reason the orange cell comes out on top, then we have purple. I'm not even going to call it a competition if it's between CT and Devin. I think CT takes it.
Oh, obviously Devin wins.
Yeah, obviously.
Because he's the smartest man in the world.
That is very true.
Not actually, but for right now he is.
He is. I mean, he solved his puzzle the quickest and told everyone to eat his shit. But I will say, girl matchup, that will be fun as well.
If it's a headbanger, for sure. I don't know who wins that one, honestly. Like, say what you will, it wasn't all the same type of competitions and not the same type of competition as Tori. But Emmy's 4-0 for a reason. It could be anyone's game there.
They both have a lot of heart too. So what we have is two different sides of the spectrum here. One of the eliminations or whatever it's going to be for the purge, on one side is going to be super exciting. On the other side, it's going to be super exciting. And then I think two duds. So we're going to see something good with this elimination in the purge.
So ultimate final question before we wrap up this podcast. Lauren, who, guy and girl, who do you think takes it home and wins it this season?
From the guy, there's no one that is even close. In my opinion, I think CT takes this entire thing unless something happens.
Mm-hmm.
From the girl side, I think right now my top two contenders are Tori or Casey. What about you?
That's fine. I'm in the same boat. Like, I think they've just pretty much scripted that it was CT's season to win, and he's going to win it. You can only make so many jokes of him going back to back for the first time ever before he actually fucking does it. Yeah. So he's going to do it. I'm going to say that. And then I just feel, especially in this episode, the edit for the reasoning for Casey was bigger than the other women. Hers is a story of redeeming herself for injuring herself in the previous final, and we have like the undertone of, oh, I didn't do that well so far, and now I'm in this really bad position. See her rise up, like, because we don't know how pairs are going to be made either. Because ultimately, I'm going to say whoever's paired with CT is going to win. Mm-hmm. So it's a matter of, does Casey or Tori or Emmy, sorry Nany, but if one of those three get paired with CT, that's who's going to win as well.
Could you imagine if it was CT and Nany, what would happen with that situation? Because
I honestly, CT's good enough where I think he would get her first win.
She has good endurance, so that's also helpful, because we saw in the previous season with Amber B, Did I think Amber B was that great at so many different things? No, not necessarily. Could the girl run? Hell yeah. And so if you can run in these finals, that might just be enough if you have someone else that you're partnered with that is really good at the puzzle aspect.
And like, if you turn back the clock, like, Nani wasn't that far off time-wise from beating Laurel in free agents. You know?
Yeah. I think everyone here is a good competitor. They earned their spot. I'm just excited to see what happens because, yes, the season has had its ups and downs, but where we are in the final right now, I think next episode is going to be a great closure to this season.
Yeah. And that wraps up today's podcast. We'll be back for the final time next week, same time, 4:30 Thursday, because we have to cover the Survivor. The finale of Survivor will also be next Wednesday, immediately after the episode. Myself, Lauren, and our friend Dan Monchel will be on the podcast, while Jonny and Matt Bischoff are hosting in Loveland, Ohio, a finale party. Go to survivortix.com to get them if you want to go and experience watching Survivor with survivors. It's a great time. And if you can't go to theirs, there's tons of other Survivor parties happening across the country in New Jersey.
If you can.
Yeah,
it's amazing. I was at the premiere party this year with both Jonny and Matt, and it's a good time. You meet so many other Survivor fans, and then they're also going to have special Survivor guests there as well. So you don't want to miss it. And Alex is right. So many opportunities. Look online. Other Survivor players are having it in different areas across the country.
Absolutely. And we'll also be back on Monday at 4:30 to continue our coverage of the Challenge All-Stars Season 2, which our latest episode, if you haven't listened to it, we had Casey Cooper on. It was a great episode, a long podcast, but it was podcast gold. And it's something that you must listen to. It's been one of our most listened to All-Star 2 coverage podcasts already this season, and that season is only getting better as we move forward. And if you want to support the podcast, become a patron at adfreensfw.com. That is adfreensfw.com, where you can be part of the secret Facebook page with Jonny, Matt, and all the other patrons. They are covering Australian Survivor. They just wrapped up Australian Survivor 2018, and we'll be starting shortly Australian Survivor 2019, which you can also watch along on Paramount Plus, who now has the last 3 seasons of Australian Survivor. And they do a weekly Q&A podcast where the patrons can ask anything and everything. Nothing's off limits, and they will answer it. It's their favorite podcast of the week. Did I miss anything, Lauren?
You didn't miss anything, and I will be back with the Deep Dive podcast. We do not have a time set yet, hoping to get another special guest on as we have had in previous weeks. It's a great listen to if you want more Survivor content, that is for sure. The guests we've had on this season have been incredible. So I will set that up at some point, but it will be happening. I'm hoping Saturday, Sunday is kind of the time frame we're looking at right now. But yeah, Alex, another great episode to cover with you, and I am very much so looking forward to talking with you next week.
Well, thank you, Lauren, for being here. I'm excited to finish this season with you, hopefully with Jonny if he's able to make it post-party. But thank you all for listening. We will be back next week. Cheers.